Yet, who is going to keep the run going? Grand Arena blind pick, Ascendant versus Reform.
And both teams lead with their best hand, Rogue Mage Priest, the classic Ascendant, and the Jungle Cleave, the Feral Druid Marksmanship Hunter Disc Priest from Reformed as they go head-to-head. You guys voted at home, and it was a very close, almost a tie at 50-50 between both of these teams. Radopi early on, he's in combat. Acro will not get a sap. He's going to open with a kidney shot instead. Immediately cheap shot. We see a pain suppression used preemptively onto Dizio, and immediately Ascendant are going to switch targets and avoid that damage reduction by going after Flappers, and then switch right back after that pain suppression is over and potentially find an early kill as Dizio barely connects his exhilaration to survive. Finally, Reformed have stabilized. They're leading the charge. They've landed a bursting shot. They've secured a full trap. Morrow is the one now needing to retreat away. Radopi opting to trinket out of that instead to try and get ahead with the Rapture. That's going to line up well with Incarn. We're at a stalemate. Acro's trying to lead the charge. Smoke bomb. Dizio got pre-gripped, I believe, or pre-disengaged out of that. That was really well done. Dizio avoided the smoke bomb, but Relza's still caught in the crowd control.
Yeah, Relza into the kidney shot. Doesn't look like there's going to be any follow-up. CC Morrow could be in a little trouble now. Full blind on Relza. Double fear comes in. Dizio gets lower. Aspect of the turtle is going to be cast out. That was Light's Wrath coming in from Radopi. Sap now over onto Relza. Radopi trying to avoid some of this incoming crowd control. Evan Bolt being cast out over onto Dizio. Still good burst, but it looks like he's going to be able to survive.
All right, full trap. They need to get an ice block, but Morrow's already ducked behind the pillar. They're not able to find it. Acro's going to shadow step back defensively. They know that Dizio has nothing left with Relza and Dizio both playing Relentless, so they can get one more polymorph. They could end the game, but Acro gets swapped to a ton of damage dished out towards him. Radopi has to use pain suppression. Reformed are trying to sneak out a kill with that opportunity, but they don't find it. We see a full polymorph secured. Relza gets broken out now into a full fear, a double fear. Dizio locked down in center field. Morrow able to precast Ice Lances. Flappers trying to heal him back up. Dizio gets gripped back to the pillar. Somehow both these teams are still alive throughout this onslaught, but Morrow is just so far ahead. He's still got 2 blocks. Acro now has Trinket Vanish. It's looking better and better for Ascendant.
Yeah, Relza's been using his mana very, very inefficiently here as well. Almost tapped at this point. 40% mana. Full trap now secured onto Radopi. This could be the first ice block coming in from Morrow. He gets interrupted on the polymorph. That means no blink. Ice block is forced out. Relza going for the Master Spell, but you can see Morrow pushing in aggressively, actually gets out of the ice block preemptively. There's a polymorph secured onto Relza as they look to keep aggression onto Dizio, but he has the exhilaration back, so he might be able to keep himself alive. Full bash onto Acro. Both Morrow and Acro are routing down, and Radopi really doesn't have anything in terms of defensives. Dizio, though, under a lot of pressure right now. Evan Bolt being cast out by Morrow. Big shatter combo onto him. Acro manages to reconnect as well, but with Relza not in any crowd control, Dizio should be able to survive.
Yeah, I think Radopi should just trinket out of this next full trap and allow Morrow to get aggressive. Let's see if they can do it. Morrow does trinket Rapture. That's going to allow them to easily survive. They have to kill Reform, though, before Incarnation is available for Flappers. They got another 43 seconds to that point. They have to kill Reform before that critical mass hits. Acro's got all his defensives. He needs to get aggressive. He's landed a kidney shot. Morrow gets the poly, but Dizio and Flappers tag teaming to retreat away. Acro shot stepping right on top of them. Cheap shot. Dizio trinkets. He ducks out of line of sight of Acro with the stun from Flappers. Good duo from Flappers and Dizio to stay alive. They need to hang on. They managed to do it. Relza is no longer crowd control, but they've run out of mana. They still need to run the clock. 20 seconds on Incarn. Morrow pre-temp shields and blinks across the map. He needs to save this ice block for that inevitable Incarn if he wants to survive it. He does a good job stalling it out. Relza's now tapped on mana. Will they be able to hang on? Full trap secured, no trinket, block traded out. But look at Incarn is 5 seconds away. It's anyone's match.
This is such a scary moment for both teams. Relza has no mana. Mind control on Acro. Morrow caught into the stun. He trinkets out, interrupted, spamming out some damage with Icy Veins right now as both Dizio and Morrow looking to close out this game. Full polymorph on Relza. He gets the pain suppression, though. That should keep him alive. In the meantime, Reform manages to take down Morrow. Very nicely done by both teams, but ultimately Reform pulls ahead and takes him down.
2 incredibly aggressive teams. We knew it was going to be a great series, and ultimately we are off to a very good start as well. Zico, we jump straight into that one. I want to hear your predictions as you actually do kind of break down what happened in that first game. Who do you think is coming out on top in this series?
It's really hard to call it, to be honest, but I think Ascendant still can take this one. I think Reformed, they won this game pretty much based off of Dizio's phenomenal kiting, disengaging out of smoke bombs, and just in general giving Acro a really hard time to connect when Maro has damage. He did a good job using his trinket as well whenever orb was dropped. He didn't use his human racial without there being an orb committed to that setup. So I think Dizio, as long as he keeps up this incredible performance and also keeps landing all of these traps, even when Acro and Rattapie are stacked up, I think Reformed has a good shot at winning it. But I mean, it's a tall order, and I think if Relza and Dizio makes one defensive mistake, the game is already going to be over. And again, Relza is playing Relentless, which means that if the opener is very, very good, then everything is just going to crumble for Reformed. So it's a very risky talent to pick as well.
I think Reformed has a little bit of a vendetta right now too, that they do want to find, like, basically answer, because the thing is Reformed, they instantly prove that they're going to be the first team that goes to BlizzCon. Then they actually don't even make it on these deep runs in that second EU Cup. We really don't get to see as much from them in a few of those cups, and now they're back and they want to say, hey, look, there's no mistaking we are one of the best teams in the world in Legion. Ascendant, on the other hand, they've been a streaky team. They have quite a lot to prove as well. But already, both of these guys, I mean, for the year, Supatis are in pretty great spots.
I mean, yeah, both these teams are basically, well, Ascendance is guaranteed to qualify, so Reformed have to beat them if they want a shot at a spot for the summer finals. That game in particular, I mean, I expected Rattapie to trinket out of the trap, but then they didn't get anything aggressively done with it. They kind of just trinket, raptured, survived, and didn't do anything with it. And they were literally 3 sets of cooldowns ahead with 2 blocks and trinket. They somehow managed to burn through 3 of those options while Relza had no mana and nothing, to the point where Aspect of the Turtle was back for Dizio. So I think Ascendant had that game. They just needed to maybe use Ice Block in that position, save Trinket, then Rattapie Trinkets later when they want to get aggressive. And they have to make that decision in a matter of seconds. And when you've got Flappers damage flying at you, it's hard to make that decision. It's like, well, I'm just going to Trinket this because you might just have to die at any second. But because of that, they lost a 3 major cooldown lead in like a matter of 20 seconds. And then Flappers and Dizio were just running away, both crowd controlling Acro and avoiding Maru by line of sighting. That was really good defensive play from them.
Which is something that we often don't even have to commend them for, because their aggression is just so darn good. I mean, they just pump. Like, honestly, Reform just pumps damage. But Ascendant, yes, they could find win conditions. But like you said, Ascendant, they already know that they are going to be going to the land. Reform sits in just about the best spot, because even though they're not 100% sure that they're going to the land, they're sure that they're going to BlizzCon. That's a pretty impressive thing. Obviously, that's one of the best perks about going to this next land, is you can potentially get that spot. But Reform definitely wants to get there. A lot of money on the line for that big land as well. Now, Ascendant is going to be breaking out the Shadow Priest. We've been talking about Shadow Priest quite a bit on the side of WizK, but Valet, this is a player who has just performed phenomenally well on land. We've seen him do quite incredible things. What do you think of this pick coming out here?
I think it was really smart. Valet, obviously known for his Shadow Priest play. He's a phenomenal player. Acro, I'm sure he can play Assassination quite well. Rattapie is the only... I think this is the first time we've seen Rattapie not play a Discipline Priest in these tournaments. Hopefully he's well practiced on it, because this is a composition that I think is relatively strong against jungle.
All right, the young rat. We've queued with him before. Zico, have you actually ever played with him when he's on anything besides Disc?
Yeah, I've played with his Holy Paladin. He's been practicing it quite a lot recently, and they have been wargaming with this composition as well. I think that Ascendant is kind of taking a page out of Noble's book over in NA here, as we saw them do kind of a similar thing, but of course a Feral Druid instead of that Assassination Rogue. Rattapie, Holy Paladin, there's some questions there, but it's good enough, I think. It's good enough.
It's coming from somebody who queued with him. Nothing but confidence. It's
all right.
Got a couple questions. It's good enough. But ultimately, this is the flexibility that we need to start seeing out of Ascendant. How will it look? We find out now.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, the gates have opened as Rattapie switches over to Holy Paladin. It's going to be important for his team moving forward into future turns that he does start to multi-class, so this will be the test for Rattapie. We see a preemptive Blessing of Protection and Trinket as they want to get very aggressive early on, landing an early Repentance. Rattapie adopting this aggressive Repentance playstyle to try and take out the Jungle Cleave. Flappers trinketing out to trade with the Vendetta early on. That's a fair trade for him. Rattapie now caught into a Wyvern. Valet needs to be careful. This could be a Dispersion. It's a race. Dizio dipping low as well. Dispersion gets traded out. Rattapie leaving that trap. If they can land another Repentance, they could secure the aspect of the turtle or a kill. Ratify still locked down. He's going to be marching towards Rel's, I can imagine, shortly. Avenging Wrath should allow Valai to easily stabilize as he jumps into Void Form, but a huge Ferocious Bite connects another huge heal, counteracts it from Ratify. Valai getting stunned up. Rel's trying to dispel dots. Blessing and protection on Valai to get him aggressive on top of him. He gets knocked away from the Scream. Great play from Dizio. Ratify gets counter shot. Dizio, defensive MV play right here, but Ratify now gets bursting shot on the Repentance. They need to delay the Repentance as long as possible. They secure a trap. This could be a trinket likely. I almost would much rather see him trinket, sack, and go for a Repentance and try and end the game. Now Ratify is just falling behind. He's going to trinket and sack. Look for the Repentance again. He lands it. Dizio feign deaths all the dots off. Valai reapplies it. They're going after Flappers. Flappers has no trinket. Relza managed to premonition the Repentance and avoid it. Great play from him. This could allow them to be greedy, but I don't think so. And that was a ton of damage out of nowhere to sneak a kill in. Relza avoided the longest crowd control. Dizio was feeling safe as a result, but a big crit is going to sneak a kill in there for Ascendant.
Shadow Crash, we saw it last week from WizK, this week from Valet. That ability is scary.
It's actually absurd. Like I said, I re-rolled. I have been playing it quite a bit, and I've been testing it on BFA too. Shadow Crash is absurd. Like, it's actually absurd. And it looked like it was only WizK damage, but we are actually seeing if you can bring in Shadow Priests in the right places, they can do bonkers damage. Was Shadow Crash the only factor there, though? Obviously, that's it.
Probably not.
It's not the only thing that went down. So, Zico, let's break down how that kill actually came in.
Well,
it was actually just
Shadow Crash from WizK to Valet, from EU to NA. Close. I don't know. I think Shadow Crash did a little bit more damage than was anticipated there, but I also think that was an Envenom from Acro at the same time, kind of coordinating it there with that damage. And honestly, I don't fault Reformed for not for going down without using cooldowns there, because I mean, before that, we saw Dizio knock away the Blessing of Protection Fear, stop the Repentance with his kick, bursting shot the next Repentance, trap Ratify into a full bash, and then he finally trinket Hand of Sacrifice, and then they managed to still just one-shot Dizio right after that, after Relza trinkets the Hammer of Justice. So, I mean, it's kind of unfortunate, but at the same time, that's the world we live in. Shadow Priests right now are doing crazy amounts of burst with Void Form and Shadow Crash and all those instant spells.
Well, we got to go to a quick break, but we're going to check the damage meters. We'll see where all that damage came from, and we will resume the series when we return. Another tied up series. This tournament, it's the last one for this season for this EU region, and they're putting on a show. Tied up, Reformed, Ascendant 1-1. My name is Rich. I'm going to be your host, and I am joined by Zico, Supatis, Venruki. Guys, great series. Two of the most aggressive teams in the world. We started to make our predictions a little bit, and then all of a sudden, Ascendant's like, oh yeah, by the way, anything that you predicted just not even going to be completely true because we actually have other compositions. Surprise! What did you think of this composition coming out?
Well, I think it's smart as a counter pick because we do know Reformed, they do have Gelu, they have different compositions that they could run themselves. So I think Ascendant locking in RMP blind is intelligent. If they know they're playing jungle, then they have this counter card prepared to win those off matches. So I think it was smart.
But we do need to keep momentum in mind as well. Ascendant going to be going back to their Rogue and Mage here to go up against Relza, Dizio, and Flappers on the composition that they have piloted all the way to get that first place at BlizzCon, that first seat at BlizzCon, that first ticket to BlizzCon. Let's see what can Ascendant do in the face of such an overwhelming composition.
And this is the swing match. Ascendant have to win this basically at a slight disadvantage, if you can really call it that, so that when they get to a game 5, they can lock in that Assassination Rogue Shadow Priest into the jungle. So it's very important for Ascendant to win this game if they want to take the entire series.
Yeah, and Dizio and Relza playing that Relentless, and I think it's intelligent because if Dizio can stand far enough away from Relza, it's really difficult for Acro to land the stuns on Relza to set up the crowd control and then also get to Dizio and have that stun lock last long enough where they can get off that significant burst. So I think it is really, really smart. I also think Relza's playing Divine Radiance in this matchup as well. That's why we saw him go so fast. It also allows him to top off his team very quickly out of crowd control.
So pain suppression used preemptively. Relza loves to use those cooldowns to get his team aggressive. That will allow Dizio to sit through that full stun lock basically for free. Morrow now trying to blink away as Ratapai's caught in crowd control. Temp shield activated, but they haven't done any damage into it. Now waiting for it to end. Flappers pops the Incarnation. Dizio disengages right on top of Morrow. That's going to be a lot of damage. That's going to be a first block forced out. And on this map, Reformed looks so much better in the matchup. Acro's trying to find some counter pressure. He's got Shadow Blades up. He's looking to pull that Shadow Dance. Relza getting counter spelled. He's going to kidney shot. Look for a poly. They get the poly. Dizio's far away though. He could kite. He gets rooted by the flurry and gets caught into a cheap shot and just gets deleted instantly from the arena. And this was the swing match. That's exactly what Ascendant wanted to put this series back in their favor.
You guys want to know what the difference is between this game and game number 1 opener? This game, Morrow didn't use a single spell in the opener because he knows Relza is going to PS Dizio first global. Flappers is going to be in bear form because Dizio has pain suppression. We're not going to get anything in the opener. Let's just do a setup where we land the poly, bait out the pain suppression, and then we go again. Of course, that Frostbolt was the best Frostbolt in the entire expansion. Proccing Frostbite on Dizio so Acro can connect. Proccing Flurry so Dizio gets one-shotted. And I mean, we can just take a look at exactly how that happened. You can see on the bottom left of your screen that Morrow hasn't used Icy Veins. He has Frozen Orb still available. You can see Ratapai is moving forward towards Relza. He hits the counter spell there on that Shadow Mend. So Relza actually can't fear Ratapai as well. Frostbite procs. There is the Flurry proc as well with the Comet Storm. Cheap shot. Dizio uses his human racial but dies in the same global. And I mean, even there, if Dizio trinkets and uses his turtle, the RMP can wait for next orb. Sheep up Dizio, blind Relza, Relentless, get a sheep out of that, or a fear, or a sap, and then they can secure the game still. So, really nice mid-game adaptation, and that was the swing match, like you mentioned. So, this opens up the entire series here.
First that Shadow Crash, now that. If I'm Reformed, I am pissed. I'd be pissed. Oh my goodness, crazy stuff coming out from Ascendant. And we talk about them being streaky, and now they're like, hey, look, we are going to prove. And also, one of the big things to note is, Supatis, if Ascendant wins this and knocks Reformed down, that just really does start to change how far Ascendant can go in the tournament, and all of a sudden it affects Reform's run very, very much.
It mostly allows XRB to kind of like breathe a little bit easier, not a lot easier, but if they can knock Reformed out and XRB can get a lead, that's going to allow them a better shot of qualifying. It also allows Tempo Storm a better shot as well. So Tempo Storm is basically praying that Ascendant wins this and Reform just get knocked out so that Tempo Storm can secure a spot for the summer finals.
Knocked down.
There's a lot on the line.
Well, what if we get Reformed versus XRB?
Oh.
Yeah, because that could happen.
That could happen.
That's the thing that we really need to be thinking about, Zico.
Yeah, I mean, if we get Reformed versus XRB, then that's essentially a lower bracket match where potentially both teams could be knocked out from the tournament, because let's say Reformed wins and then they go up in the next match against Tempo and they lose, then both of those teams are completely out, and all of a sudden the point threshold that you need to make it is going to be a lot lower than if Reformed is stomping their games, and so is Skill Cap Black and Ascendant.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is Ascendant having a really dominant performance here is good for them as well, right? I mean, ultimately, they want the extra cash. They also want to be able to get in that position where, okay, look, we're going to have better seeding going into things. I mean, do you remember when we actually were at Gamescom last year, what happened to Ascendant? It's obviously a different roster, but they kind of get dismantled. Having really good seeding here is something that they want to have again, right? Yeah. They want to make sure that they have that. They want to make sure that they have everything in their favor. They play a composition that's difficult to play on LAN, and Reformed on the other end, they play a composition that tends to be great for LAN, and they've already shown that they are phenomenal at LAN. They looked really good in the cups. Let's be honest. They did look really good in the cups the first time, but they were still on the bubble of actually qualifying the LAN. They get to LAN, and barely anybody touched them. Nobody could stop them. They were knocking out teams left and right. Nobody could stop Reformed. So the thing is Reformed, it is hard for them to get to the LANs more so than it is for them to actually destroy LANs. This is a team that can make it to the next LAN and do phenomenal again.
One thing we need to talk about, too, with Reformed's run, I think at the spring finals, they ended up only playing against North American teams the way it played out. So they just kind of dismantled all the North American teams that weren't prepared for a jungle that aggressive. Whereas some of the European teams, you know, they have the experience. Like you said, Reformed was on the bubble. Maybe those matchups would have been a little bit more difficult. So that is definitely something to consider. Maybe it actually is more difficult for Reformed to make it there. Instead of playing against some of these North American teams that aren't as experienced against this kind of jungle.
That's kind of what I
So top 4 in EU is harder than facing anyone in the top 4 for men.
Whoa! We're jumping straight to this matchup. Ascendant versus Reform. Ascendant just needs one more victory. One more victory to be staying in that upper portion of the bracket. Will Reform be able to tie it up here?
You need to calm down. You're getting violent. What if you broke something there? That was a close one. I'm worried for Zico.
Yeah,
I'm not too worried.
Shaking a little bit.
He's going to be fine. Don't worry.
3 North Americans on this desk.
Yeah,
oh my God, doesn't stop.
All right, the gates have opened. Ascendant looking to knock Reform down into the lower bracket. Move that much further to the finals of this tournament. Now let's see how Ascendant decides to open up here. You can see Acro slowly moving in on Stealth. Ratify really not a target, so he can play aggressive very early on. Polymorph onto Dizio, Kidney Shot onto Relza. This is a very nice setup coming in from Ascendant. It looks like Bash over on the Ratify, silence on Morrow. Maybe Reform able to find that initial pressure.
They did the preemptive pain suppression, preemptive survival instincts, and again, Morrow did an Icy Vein, so we might see a rinse and repeat of that game on Runes of Lordaeron with Shadow Blades already rolling. Acro is waiting to pull the trigger. The next Kidney Shot Poly on Relza could secure a kill. Morrow's now moving forward to get into position, jumping down off the balcony, blinking into line of sight. Acro needs to get ready, but a block is going to be forced as Dizio is crowd controlling Ratify up. No Mask Dispel attempt here onto Morrow. There's the Kidney Shot. Will Morrow get the Poly? He blinks in, he lands it. There's going to be a ton of damage if he pops Icy Veins. He's holding onto it. He's trying to bait more cooldowns. He gets a Trinket, Survival Instincts before the Smoke Bomb. He might even just die through it. I almost wonder if he did Icy Veins that Flappers would have died right there. He might still die ultimately as that Smoke Bomb gets dropped, but he jumps out of it 1 second before it landed, and I think Acro got a little bit ahead of himself there. If he had been patient, went for that Smoke Bomb later on, Flappers had no way to get out of it.
Yeah, Morrow still had the Icy Veins as well, so I think that patience would have definitely paid off. Morrow now having to play a little bit defensive here with the Bash onto Ratify. Dizio bursting shot onto Ratify, followed up most likely by the trap. There it is. Morrow all by himself. Ratify trinkets out to keep him alive. Still has the Rapture and Paint Stop available. But Flappers and Dizio both could be in potential trouble here if Relza gets caught in any more crowd control.
All right, Flappers trying to get a second block here. Ratify not crowd controlled though. There's a counter shot onto the heel. Morrow fully shielded up though. He should be quite tanky. There's the stun. Dizio needs to land the trap, but they set up for the kill onto Flappers. If they had a Smoke Bomb here, they don't even need it. Full Polymorph secured. I don't know how Flappers are going to make it out alive. Bear form might not be enough. He charges over, but they got no interrupt for the Poly, and Flappers will fall. Ascendant advanced 3-1.
Ascendant, too. I think the other thing that we need to note is they just look even better than we've seen in the past. I feel like this is a team that, yes, they were streaky, but the thing that they've been getting isn't necessarily like better placements at all than what they've gotten before, because look, they can't. They've already kind of achieved that pinnacle in the past, but I feel like slowly over the season they have gotten more consistent and starting to see them do different things, like actually break out other specs and them looking good. that speaks miles about Ascendant. We already know that we're going to see them at LAN, and now we've just seen them go toe-to-toe with the first team to make it to BlizzCon, send and Reform down to the lower portion of the bracket.
Yeah, and this game here is the first game that we actually get to see the punish of Relza's talent choice playing that Relentless, because all you need to do is force either Dizio's or Flapper's Trinket and then take them down 100-0 with the full blind on Relza. This time around they managed to execute it very nicely, and on the side of Reform you don't really have the option to do anything but pain suppression in that opener, because if you don't pain suppression there, Dizio ends up having to Trinket and use his